Well, hey there, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Business Wise. I'm Nancy Fox. I'm your host, and I am also CEO of Fractional Connections and ProductWise, which is a product development company serving service-based business owners and helping them productize their services and add a lot of recurring revenue to their business so they can scale without a lot of employees. And today I have a fabulous guest with me. I'm very excited to introduce you to Ryan Hogan, who is the CEO and co-founder of Talent Harbor. But he's not just that, he's just got a really impressive background. He's a U.S. Navy Reserves Sea Commanding Officer, co-founder of a recently acquired company. And so we have a lot to unpack, and a podcast host. And so we have a lot to unpack here, but he's got a really interesting business model, and I want him to share all about that with us today. So Ryan, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Nancy. Appreciate it.
So happy to have you. You've just got a really diverse and impressive background. And if you wouldn't mind, just give us a brief, bring us up to how you got to launch Talent Harbor and why you structured it the way it is. So give us a little of you can give us like a 20-second recap of your history and what got you here.
Yeah, sure. So the 20-second version is Navy 23 years, started enlisted, eventually transitioned to reserves. I used to fly on helicopters, lifelong entrepreneur, started selling creepy crawlers in third grade, and now placing amazing human beings at different organizations. And I think one thing that'll probably come up a lot in this conversation today is like how we got to the productization of Talent Harbor. And that really stems from my experience in the consumer space, which first started in a company called Run for Your Lives. It was a zombie-infested 5K obstacle course race. It was just as crazy as it sounds. I was actually talking to my son about this yesterday. We used to actually electrocute people at the finish line.
So this was in real life. It wasn't like online. It was in real life.
That's correct.
Okay, an experiential business.
Yep. And that's actually how Hunt to Killer started as well. So we kind of followed the same playbook that we did with Run for Your Lives. Hunt to Killer started out as a live event where we brought about 600 people to a campground. The difference was the business model didn't scale. And so when you look at Run for Your Lives, we could put 15, 20,000 people through an event in any given weekend. Hunt to Killer, you couldn't have thousands of people standing around a crime scene. And so we pivoted. We looked across the market at different types of business models that people were gravitating towards. At that time, it was subscription boxes, Loot Crate, Birchbox. This was 2016. And so we pivoted. And instead of bringing people to us for an experience, we brought the experience to their front doorsteps through an episodic game, almost an episodic story. And so we scaled that from zero to about 55 million bucks in 7 years. Spent a whole bunch of money recruiting, and that's kind of where Talent Harbor picks up. But sold that company last January. A Vistage chair came to me, said, go pick your favorite line item off your P&L. For me, it was people. But we spent about 700,000 bucks in recruiting over that 7-year period. Never made sense to me. So then we got into recruiting. That's the fastest, by the way, I've ever told that story. So I'll let you
take able to encapsulate it that way. So what you did, say that again about what the Vista chair asked you and what prompted that question.
Yeah, so it was no secret that we were selling the company. So we put the business up for sale last July. So last July. So that was July of 2023. Generally selling a company, at that point around the 50 million mark, it takes quite a few months. And so you normally look at 6 to 12 months. And the conversations that we were having at that time were getting much more serious. And so I sat down with my Vistage chair out of Seattle, and he was like, Ryan, you are not going to be able to sit still. Go look at your P&L right now, your profit and loss statement. Look at all those line items that are on there and go pick your favorite one. For me, that was people. Every line item that we had, the development, the training, the mentoring, the coaching, everything that we invested into our people, that was my favorite thing because it was helping humans achieve their goals. And that's really, we don't have to get into all of this, but that's really how I see business in general. It's not about a murder mystery or a zombie event. It's about bringing.
That's just the vehicle.
It's just the vehicle. And so that's what he asked me. And for me, it was people. But what that exercise did do was bring out the idea that we had spent a lot of money in recruiting, and it never made sense to me. So, yeah.
And when you hired recruiters, were they on contingency or were they on retainer? Or were they or both?
It was both. It was generally like, what level were we looking for? So we used recruiters for a CTO role, for a chief marketing officer role, and for a CFO role. So when we were at that C-level search, we were really on retained search. And then everything else in between, we were using contingent search.
And did you use any fractional executives or was it always full-time people?
We used a lot. So, believe it or not, when we first launched Talent Harbor, that's kind of what we thought this might have been, was this a fractional service agency, because fractional talent is an unlock for any business. It's like it's been the best kept secret of private equity for like the last 25 years. And I would say only over the last like 5 to 10 years has fractional really kind of developed and started to get momentum outside of that space. Um, like, let's be clear as well that one of the issues we're having, or we're seeing right now with fractional, is all consultants are now just putting fractional in front of their job title. And so like that can be deceiving because that's not really what fractional
That's
is.
right. That's exactly right.
Yeah, we saw fractional as not necessarily interim because it's still fractional, it's not full time, but there's much more of an integration of fractional executives than there is consultants.
And there is a big difference, between when someone goes interim and someone is a fractional, because when a fractional um, executive's mind, they've got, 3 or 4 jobs, not one job, like, and they're working with 3 or 4 companies, ideally for them. And when someone's an interim, they're basically on contract for a year or 18 months or whatever it is, but they're focused on one company. And there's a big difference mentally, right? Um, so, so bring us up to how you created, okay, so Talent Harbor was birthed. The genesis of it came from your love of the people part of running a business.
Yeah.
Uh, so, and I'm a big devotee of, you know, I know it's like people make jokes about do what you're passionate about and the money will come. That's not the point. The point is that when you do what really you love, you'll be willing to go through, hell and high water to actually make it work. That's really what
Yeah.
it's about. So when you launched Talent Harbor, what was the original concept of it and how was it? It got that you realized that you spent a lot of money on recruiting. So what was your vision of how Talent Harbor would be different and why it would be good for the market?
Yeah. I think what's been really interesting to me throughout my entrepreneurial life, my kind of business Bible of sorts, pre-product market fit, is the lean startup. So I read the lean startup about 15 years ago, and I have followed, maybe it wasn't 15, it might have been 15 years ago now. But I have followed those principles to get to product market fit ever since. And I've got a pretty good batting average at this point, getting to product market fit. And it's not because I'm brilliant. I have one friend come to me, he's like, you just have a knack for like developing companies. That's not it at all. Like, if you would have asked me what my vision was, we would have been, in the early days, we just would have been a recruiting firm. And I don't want to say just a recruiting firm to diminish like what recruiters do and like the value that they can bring. But like, let's be clear. One, it's a very fragmented industry, and two, there are thousands, if not tens of thousands of recruiters. And then you start to add in like people that are just kind of solopreneurs. Now you've got hundreds of thousands of people that are doing this type of work. And the thing with me with entrepreneurship is you always put ideas, like, I may have had a vision, but you always put ideas, and entrepreneurship is 10 to 15% ideas, pre-product market fit, and 85% listening. And what you're listening for, where those signals, and you have to parse through the noise and through the clutter. But once you find something, you just start to slowly shift. I mean, slowly, you want to do it as fast as possible, but those signals don't always come very fast.
That's
And
right.
so as you're getting the signals, you're just kind of following where the company takes you. And so, I knew I wanted to start a recruiting firm. I called Alana Burr, who was the most incredible recruiter we ever used at Talent Harbor. She's the best recruiter I've ever worked with in my life. And I
Why do you
called her, and
why
I'm
do you feel that she's the best? What is it about her that makes her the best?
I, it's so here's all I can speak to with the best is the results. So, let's look at care and empathy and all those. Like she has all of those. Like she from a sales standpoint, like, and she was a contingent recruiter for us. And so, like, from a sales standpoint, the follow-ups and the care and the salesmanship and the quality of building relationships, yes, she has all that. When I talk about recruiting, the only thing I can look at is performance. And the type of candidates that Alana brought, and I didn't know how she did it. Now I do. And we've built proven processes around that to operationalize recruiting because the amount of clients that we're onboarding, like we can't have one recruiter. And so we've taken this subject matter expertise out of her head, productized, or excuse me, operationalized it. And then once we operationalized it, then we productized it. But the only thing I can speak to outside of those things that you can feel and you just know that she's good is the performance. And the candidates that she brought us were the best of the best every single time.
Okay, so that's really exciting when you find the someone that you want to work with that in your business. First of all, that's hard enough as it is, as you know. Like I'm not going to tell you anything you don't know. So you just went through a sequence of business issues from product market fit, and then operationalizing, and then productizing. So just in your words, define what, move us from operationalizing to productizing. What is that pathway? Define, like in your words, like explain how you see it.
Yeah. And so I might be making a whole bunch of this stuff up, meaning like I haven't read books on like what the definition of operationalize and productize
Don't
is.
worry about it because everybody has a different, that's why I was asking you the question,
Yeah.
because everybody's got a different definition. And my passion is to really help people see their flavor of productizing and realize it. So in your vision, like, or in your perspective, move from operationalizing to productizing, explain how you see it.
Yeah. So for me, operationalizing something means that you're putting in processes. So whatever that magic is, whatever that secret sauce is for the quality of service that you deliver, and it could be a product, but for the service that you deliver, operationalizing to me is putting those processes in place so it can be replicated outside of that human. So if you have someone that's best in the world at something, that doesn't scale. And so operationalizing to me means that you are developing infrastructure, whatever that means. So for us, that means different types of technologies because there's a lot of technology that we use in recruiting. There are proven processes. And so, like, what are the interview questions that we ask? How many interviews? What are the assessments? What are we looking for? It's taking all of these different aspects that have made us best in the world, and it's saying, if you're the only one that knows how to do this, then this is going to be a great two-person company,
Yeah.
and it's only going to get so far. And so for me, operationalizing is starting to figure out how to put processes in place and bring all of these pieces together so it can be replicated outside of that human. Now,
I call it
okay,
rinse and repeat.
I love it. I love it. So that you just put it much more succinctly than I did. So it's a rinse and repeat model. And then once you have that, what you realize is that you start to find efficiencies. Now, not everything. I was actually sitting down. I mean, you know Bob. Bob's in our group, and I went out and had lunch with Bob yesterday, and we were talking about on the accounting side, and we were thinking through different things you can operationalize and things that you can't. So not all things can be operationalized, and that's very important too, because if you're trying to force something like that could just crater and you're going to realize really quick you can't productize it. You generally can't operationalize fractional work, meaning that if you are some sort of CFO and you have different problems at every single company, then you can't necessarily operationalize what you're doing. But what you can operationalize is maybe the management of that, meaning that like not the specific role, but the management of those humans that you're placing into those specific roles. If you were to sit over top all of the fractional, become some sort of fractional placement agency. So anyhow, long-winded. To me, that's what operationalize means. Now, when you go from operationalizing something, you're going to naturally find efficiencies in those systems. And that now has given you this like golden nugget of competitive advantage because now you have pricing power. You have the ability to undercut everybody in the industry because you have figured out how to operationalize things that somebody may not have. And so to me, productizing something is saying we do one thing generally out of the gate, because like that would to me be the definition of a
Or your,
product is
that
a
would be like your core offer, like a core offer, right?
yep.
Okay.
Your core offering. So you now have this like amazing efficiency. You know you can scale it. And oh, by the way, as you put all of these pieces together, there's costs associated with everything. So now you can actually see what are the direct costs to provide this operationalized service or product. And now that you have those direct costs, now you can figure out, okay, well, what's my target margin? How am I going to put all these pieces together? And now you can start to productize this. And to me, the productization, especially in the business service, um, I don't know if everybody's going to agree with this, but to me, that's recurring revenue. Like productizing is not like, hey, let's put a stamp, it's 1999 on it. Productizing to me means you have some sort of repeatable process in which you're providing sustained and consistent value where you can get paid for that value on a monthly, quarterly, yearly, whatever the case is basis.
Exactly why I wanted you to share your aha with the audience and all the people that, that listen and watch and that I interact with, because this is exactly the kind of business acumen and a realization that turns any business, just in any business, into a higher value business. It's a couple of things. It's about, after all, when a business wants to buy you, they're looking for that recurring revenue. They are looking for that. It gives them a sense of, clarification and certainty that you don't have when you have a fractional business, there's no certainty in revenue. It's an
Nope.
unscalable model, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there are definitely recruiters who are in contingency and get monthly fees, but you're talking about something different. So explain the model.
Yeah, so our model is dead simple. It is $5,000 a month for expert recruiting. And there's a couple ways to look at that. And the other thing here is I think, and we've been caught in this trap lately, and you've got to be careful, not you as in Nancy, but people that are listening, and we're still trying to figure this out, is we've been so excited about this model that to a certain extent we've been leading with the model. And that's incorrect as well, especially when you're thinking from a marketing standpoint, because the business model is not the value that you're providing, it's the exchange for that value that you're providing. And so
The
we've
wisdom
been
that you give them, right? Mhm.
right. And so like we've been trying to figure out, we've been actually backpedaling a little bit because we're like, we can't lead with that. We have to lead with we're the best recruiters in the world. And oh, by the way, we just happen to have this very unique business model. And so that goes back to like the three uniques and a lot of other things. But we are super simple and it's $5,000 a month. There's no contracts, there's no success fees. We believe in open and candid conversations, transparency. When you need us, you turn it on. When you don't, you turn it off. We offer a 90-day guarantee, meaning that if anybody that we sent and you hired does not work, we will replace that person for free. And we believe in quality over quantity. Like if somebody wants 100 or 1,000 resumes to review, ZipRecruiter, Indeed, LinkedIn, like there are systems out there for you to go out and find those humans. When you want expert recruiting, which actually becomes a core competency and a competitive advantage for small and medium-sized businesses, like that's where you can come to us. And that's what we're so excited about is because when Hunt to Killer was a two, three, maybe even $5 million business, we couldn't afford 60,000 for someone to go out and find an incredible hire for us. And so if we start we are making recruiting accessible for small, medium-sized businesses, we're actually giving them a competitive advantage over everybody else in the space that's looking at 100 resumes and doesn't have some sort of proven process to vet and qualify those humans.
Interesting. I think it's so fascinating. I really love what you said um, before. While it's true that my focus on this conversation is tell us about the model because it's so unusual and it's so unique, and it definitely ties into, um, our value proposition to you guys, to everybody in the market is like, please think about ways of productizing so that you have a competitive advantage, so that you have recurring revenue and raise the value of your business, so that you have intellectual property that allows you to sell a business. Now, of course, that's the value proposition when you want to scale a business and not have 1 million employees. But to your very point, that price alone is or the way you price your business is never it's never really the way to lead. I concur completely. It's only in exchange for that high quality or that exceptional quality that you provide for that pricing. So, how do you see your business? What are you looking to do with your business in the next year, 2 years? Like, how are you looking to expand and grow and scale yourselves?
Yeah, I think so. Now that we have these repeatable processes in place, and it's that rinse and repeat model that you talk about, like it doesn't stop there. Like even if you have a process in place, if you bring the wrong people inside of your organization, like it's still not gonna be a good thing. And
Right.
so there is some intuition, and Alana and I debate this all the time where I'm like, we need a process. And she's like, listen, some of this is intuition. I'm like, there is no intuition. Everything has to be on paper, and you have to explain your intuition so that other people can learn this.
Yeah, good
Um,
for you, Ron. Right, that's really good. It is very, a lot of times people don't know what their secret sauce is. They've just been
yeah,
doing it so well, they've never actually had to productize it and figure out what the hell is it that's so wonderful and magical.
100%. And that's been like, that's hard for both of us to try and figure that out. Um, so for us, like the focus is really on hiring incredible recruiters to follow that process. Cause we don't like, even though we have a great process, like we don't want to bring someone with zero experience. Like we think it is important that there is 5 to 7 years of experience. So they have a little bit of that gut intuition. They know they like the industry. We know they like people because at least they've been playing in it for a little bit. And then we bring them in, and then we kind of we lead them, and we train.
Guide
There's
them.
debates on the words train, but
Mhm.
train them on our proven process. And so, the focus for the next couple of years is to get the message out there. Like we think we can change this industry. We look at what I look at is the perception of the recruiting industry is no better than on the non-business side, used car salesman. And there's very little self-awareness. There's a whole bunch of arrogance. And I think that this industry is ripe for transparency and trust and all of these things that have been absent. And so like that's our initiative over the next 24 months is like, let's try and actually change this industry. The money and the clients, like all that stuff will come. Like that stuff will take care of itself as long as we stay true to like what we're trying to accomplish.
It's great. It's really, having a juicy mission like that is really fun because it keeps you, excited and motivated to keep growing and doing the things that really work, and also to hone in on what's not working and really challenge yourself that way. So question, are you working with certain industries particularly, or are you industry agnostic?
Yeah, that goes back to our original conversation where like we listen 80 to 85% of the time of where the market's taken us. When we came out, we were kind of way out there, and then we started focusing on EOS businesses, and then we were industry agnostic. And what the market has been telling us over the last 3 months is that our model and our expertise and our vetting and qualification is best in the sales channel. And so, do we do searches for integrators and operators and C-suites and kind of across the organization? Like, yes, we have engineering clients, we've got accounting clients, like we do it all. But you're going to see this massive pivot from our organization over the next probably month, where everything that we put out into the world is all about sales and expert salesperson recruiting. The other great part is the model, because we don't hire or because there's no commission at the end of this. Like if you're hiring 2, 3, 5 account managers or business development people, you don't pay per hire. You just keep the service on a little bit longer if that's what it takes. But if you hire 4 candidates in 2 months, like we don't charge you extra for that. We think that that's actually ridiculous. So I guess that's a long-winded
It's
answer,
great
but
because what really motivates you to really elevate as you said, the performance and making your clients really happy with the people that they're getting, and the getting of the really good people who will perform for them. So I think it's a pretty exciting model. That's why I was thrilled to be able to have this conversation with you. All right, so with all of that, I think you gave us a pretty darn good snapshot of what you're up to these days, which has been an awful lot. How do people find you? And I'll put all of the details in the notes, the description below, so everybody will have this and they can find you. So tell us a little, where can they find you? What's the best way for them to reach you?
Yeah, so if they want to reach out direct, I'm all over LinkedIn. I'm constantly on LinkedIn. That seems to be where everything's happening, especially in our space. So it's just Ryan E. Hogan or / Ryan E. Hogan. You can look for me, Ryan Hogan. I think it says something about Navy and other things in my profile. The company is Talent Harbor. It's talentharbor.com. And then we actually also, if you're already in the sales space, we also have a newsletter. It's called Funnel Vision. Funnelvision.fm is where you go and
Okay.
subscribe. And it's no sales, no hassle. We just give out fun, creative advice on a biweekly basis, and we try and make it entertaining. Sometimes we miss the mark, but most of the time we're just having fun with it.
It's great. I really recommend everybody get to know Ryan. He's really awesome on many, many fronts. Thank you so much for spending a few minutes and sharing your pathway. We are many, many pathways. I mean, we're just touching on the tip of the iceberg here, but it's
Yeah,
really very exciting to hear the story. And we're all going to be watching to see exactly, what's going on in the business. So keep us posted.
awesome. Thanks so much. Appreciate you having me on, Nancy.
Thank you. Thanks so much. And I'll see you guys next time in the next episode. So subscribe and follow along. And if you got a great productization story, make sure you reach out.